Are you an 8, 9, or a 10? I guess stick around and find out what we're talking about. But we're going to get into the conversation this week, Sean, of what's your confidence level, right? When it comes to, I guess, your financial strategy, right? So we got 5 kind of tips or key areas we want to talk about to help you raise your confidence level to that 8, 9, or 10. Why don't we want 7s, by the way?
Sevens are fence sitters. There's
Okay.
no fence sitters allowed.
Okay. All right. All right. So we want to be an 8, a 9, or a 10. So let's break it down and get into it this week. So how's this come about? So when you guys are evaluating kind of like a questionnaire with potential clients?
So when we look at building holistic plans, we focus on the 5 key areas of planning, right? So we focus on income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and estate planning. And each one of these areas, there are certain things that we need to be able to answer yes on in order to be an 8, 9, or 10. And what that means that if I'm an 8, 9, or 10, I am very well positioned in for that particular area. So in income, if I'm an 8, 9, or 10, I've answered yes to all the questions and I'm prepared. If I'm not, then I'm a 1 through 6. And 6 just means that I've got some concerns and I need some help.
Okay. And so
So
we got a little work to do, right? So we want to kind of work our way and get up there. So kind of like a sleep number, if you will, right? Saying, what's your number kind of thing. Although I think that was
exactly.
ING years ago, so we don't want to use what's your number. But all right, so let's start with income. So what are some things to think about to get us to that 8, 9, and 10? What are some bullet points or some action items?
So in order to be an 8, 9, or 10, and you may say if you're listening to this, and you can write these out on your own, and you can rank yourself. If one thing I would say, if you're not an 8, 9, or 10, and you're a 1 through 6, whether it's our firm or not, um, reach out and get help from somebody. We're happy to help to provide some clarity to see if you are maybe a 1 through 6 or an 8, 9, or 10. But these are questions that we have to ask ourselves, and they're very simple. So the first one in income is I know where my money is going to come from, right? So I know what accounts I'm going to pull from. I know specifically how much I can withdraw without hurting myself. I know how long my money is going to last, right? So there's that clarity issue of how much, where is it going to come from, what accounts are best to withdraw from, and when, right? So if I've got various taxable accounts, I've got the clarity there. And the last one, which I think is pretty important, is I have a Social Security withdrawal strategy. So I've thought about, when I'm going to, at what age I'm going to take Social Security out. So those are the 5 questions for income: where, how much, how long is my money going to last, right? What accounts do I pull from? And what's my Social Security strategy? If I can't answer yes to all 5 of those questions, I fall in 1 through 6. However, if I can answer yes, perfect. You're an 8, 9, or a 10.
All right, I like that. We're thinking about retirement and finances being a math thing, but I've been saying for a while now. To me, it's an English more instead of a math problem, which I know it's a math problem, but it's really an English class, right? It's an
Yeah.
English. It's a who, what, where, when, why,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, and understand like how I'm a big believer in what, right? Like
Right.
what's going to happen, but I want to understand, how it's going to happen or why it's going to happen as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
But in order to get to that 8, 9, or 10, I have to be able to answer yes to all those questions. And if I
Hmm.
can't answer yes, I'm not fully prepared
Yeah.
from an income perspective.
Yeah, and the where is really important in this first 5 too. Where, which horse are you riding first, right? Where are you pulling the money from? Which accounts are you going after first, right? How are you being the most efficient? So good things there on the income side. So what about the investment side? What's a couple takeaways here?
2 things from the investment side. That's all you need to know to get to an 8, 9, or 10.
Okay.
And 8, 9, or 10 on the investment side is that you specifically know what your risk score is. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do that. For us, we use a tool that determines the uncle point, the volatility lows that you're willing to take.
Hmm.
And so if you visualize, say, okay, if I don't know my risk score, let's take $1 million, for example, and then we take a pencil, or I've got a marker right here, and I say, when do you want me to stop? We're at 1 million. Do I stop at 900, 800,
Right.
700?
Uncle.
And uncle, right? Okay, so 700 is a low volatility point. That's the comfort level with, okay, I'm willing to lose 30%. What does
Yeah.
that mean inside of my plan? So
Gotcha.
that's the first thing, understanding what your risk score is. And that was a very simplistic example, but we want to understand what the volatility that you're willing to accept is. The second piece for investments is knowing specifically that you can survive a major market correction. So you've done the analysis to know that, my portfolio, my income strategy can survive a major market correction. If it can't, or you don't know, you're not an 8, 9, or 10.
Mm-hmm.
You fall 1 through 6. Remember, there's no fence sitter, so you can't be a 7. But if I don't know my risk score, or maybe I know my risk score, but I don't know if I can survive a major market correction, I'm probably not an 8, 9, or 10.
Okay. All right. So again, we got these 5 key areas. So that's 2. So 3 is no one's friend, tax.
Taxes.
Yeah.
So here's one thing for taxes.
Just one.
Just one for taxes. You have 1 to 3 strategies in place. So it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3 strategies in place to mitigate your current taxes, reduce your taxes in the future with a goal of trying to eliminate tax completely. Now that sounds like a big one, right? But we have 1 to 3 strategies in place to mitigate our current tax situation, reduce our taxes in the future with the goal of eliminating taxes completely. If I don't have 1 to 3 strategies in place to do those things, I'm not an 8, 9, or a 10. I'm a 1 through 6.
Gotcha. Okay. It makes me think of, what was that? The power of 0, right? You can get yourself down to, and people don't realize, but it doesn't just happen because you hit retirement age, but you can be effective and really try to lower your taxation, quite a bit if you do some proper planning. So
through proper planning, a lot can be accomplished. Now you have to understand the ins and outs, but if you could build a strategy that, we showed an example, in a previous podcast where we saved, $70,000 roughly in taxes over the life, like that's a big deal.
That's a big number. Yeah, for sure. All right. Healthcare. Right. So this one's got to be, there's probably 400 points in this one, but maybe we can simplify it down to like 3 or 4.
I got 4 for you.
Okay. All right.
So we simplify down to four points to get you to an 8, 9, or 10. First one is that you understand how healthcare is going to be impacted in retirement. So what are you going to do, and how is your healthcare going to change? You understand, if necessary, how to solve the gap between retirement age and Medicare age. Right. So if I'm going to retire at, I've got a family that's retiring at 62 that we're working with right now. How are we going to solve that gap from 62 to 65 to get them to Medicare age? The third one is you have a clear understanding, which we've talked about in previous podcasts, of how IRMA works and how it affects Medicare. Aunt Irma. So you have an understanding of how IRMA limits work and how that's going to affect you. And you have a plan for a major medical event in the event that it happens. So if you don't have answers to those 4 areas, how healthcare will be impacted in retirement, how to bridge the gap if necessary, how IRMA will affect you, if at all, and how to cover a major medical event, you are not an 8, 9, or 10.
And we all want to be. And we want to be, right? So, yeah. And if you're not familiar with this, calling it Aunt Irma, you can go look it up. But IRMA is, another tax. I was always taught, like I think we've talked about before, Sean, that there's 2 people that have their hand in your pocket as you get older, and it's your Uncle Sam and your Aunt Irma. So
that's right.
That was the way of kind of thinking about that. I always kept it in my brain. All right. So then finally, legacy. Point number 5, or takeaway number 5. So what's some things to think about?
Now, legacy is, we call it succession planning, right? Passing assets on to the next generation. We find that people are predominantly prepared when it comes to being an 8, 9, or 10,
Got some documents.
Yeah, from a legacy perspective, it's, do I have a will?
Right.
Do I have a trust? If I have a trust, more importantly, is my trust funded properly?
Right.
The box doesn't mean anything if I don't have any of my stuff in it.
Right.
And then my beneficiaries are up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty straightforward there. Wills, trust funded properly, and my beneficiaries are up to date. If you can answer yes to all those, you're an 8, 9, or 10.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up this week. So thanks for hanging out with us and breaking it down as always. It's the holiday season. Be safe out there and enjoy your holiday. But don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify or YouTube now. And of course, if you need some help, check the show note description links there. We've got links to get back to Sean and the team so you can get yourself some time onto the calendar and elevate your retirement with the folks at Elevated Retirement Group. We'll see you next time here on the podcast.
This video has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this video is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this video is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this video. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC and Elevated Capital Advisors LLC. Mark Killian and Third Wheel Media LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this video.